Hello and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelley and my channel is dedicated to talking about ways to be more environmentally friendly in a modern context. This week I wanted to talk about a subject that's kind of been on my mind, which is supply chains. And admittedly, I've never witnessed a supply chain for any purchased item in person, because of course that would be very difficult to do. And to be honest, a lot of supply chains are very kind of obscure in some of the places that they source materials. And so a lot of times the knowledge that I glean from how supply chains work is by reading books and watching videos here on YouTube. But the reason that this subject had come to mind is because there is a movie that's coming out, a Marvel movie that's coming out this summer, and I was really interested in it. I thought the artwork looked really, really fantastic. It takes it, the artwork is inspired by the kind of mod 1960s kind of motif. And I noticed that there was a book, an art book that was on sale online that's going to release in November. Now, if you live in the United States, you know, it's been in the headlines, in the news, that we are talking a lot about tariffs. And we are going to talk briefly on that also, because you can't discuss supply chains without talking about the costs that are incurred at every step of the production of a product, right? So it isn't to knock any of the decisions that are being made on a political level, but that does really come into play. And again, what got me thinking is that I was looking for this art book, and of course you always want to find the best price. I've been picky about where I want to put my buying dollar, because your buying dollar has a lot of power, and we're going to talk about that again in a minute. But I was really hoping to find the book either at, Books A Million or Barnes and Noble. And I was seeing a great discrepancy in price. And the other thing that I kind of noticed is that it was a pretty expensive book. It was about $150. But it was interesting. It talked about the book being in a slip cover, which is kind of like a cover to the book. And normally if something comes in a slip cover, sometimes that can be an indicator that it's more than one volumes, that it's more than one book in a set, which may warrant the higher price. But it was funny, I wasn't seeing a whole lot of details about it. I wasn't seeing the details of, where the paper comes from or where it's produced. The other thing is the number of pages changed, which I know is kind of a weird thing. Initially it said that the set was like 512 pages, and then it dropped down to 249 pages. So this could be just some discrepancy from, because if the book doesn't release until November, the details might be a little sketchy. But it was funny, I was seeing a few resellers offering it for like $95, and then I was seeing the main retailers, like the main bookstores, offering it for $150. And it really got me thinking, okay, is this a situation where the book is, a multi-volume set and it's an art book, so therefore it warrants the, the $150 price? Or is this book being sourced from another country where the reason that it's priced so high and they're debating the number of print pages is because it might be at that point in time in the future subject to a tariff? So this is what got me thinking about it. Also, of course, tariffs have really also got me thinking from a fashion perspective as well. A lot of, the big example that you've probably heard when you look up a tariff is the cost of it when you print t-shirts. And again, we've talked on this channel a lot. T-shirts are the number one, producers of waste. Since the 60s and 70s, you can mass produce t-shirts and you can get what they call blanks, just the solid colors in stock, and you can, vinyl print on it, spray print on it, dye it. But we mass produce t-shirts so much, and I've posted this video before, but Ted Ed has an excellent video that talks about the life cycle of a t-shirt, and the supply chain gets very, very complicated with t-shirts because the cotton has to be grown for it, and cotton's a very thirsty plant. It's a water intensive plant. If it's organic cotton, it's grown without pesticides, which is a little bit better, but still water intensive. So, and then all of the cotton has to be processed, has to be woven. The t-shirt has to be bleached or dyed the color that it's going to be. A lot of times that t-shirt is flown from the place where it's woven and to where it is dyed, and then to another place where the tags are sewn in, and then to another place where whatever however it's going to be constructed is put together. And this is always that's the supply chain. The stage of creating a garment, t-shirt, dress, pair of shorts, goes through those steps. And with every step, it seems like it's carbon intensive too, because that garment has to be flown or shipped or moved, by a truck to the next destination for the next step. And then, of course, you've probably seen on this channel, and if you know anything about ethical practices, is that, of course, the workers who sew, the seamstresses, the people who work in the sewing factories, sometimes are not paid a living wage. Sometimes there are, human rights abuses, that are found out, and that also plays into the supply chain. There is a good website called Good On You. It's funny, in the last video I was talking a lot about recycled sports sportswear, and believe it or not, when you go on Good On You, you can search a brand and it'll tell you how well it ranks. And it ranks it on several categories, including, everything that we just talked about, how carbon intensive, how much do they fly stuff around, how hard are they on the planet, do they use organic materials, are they bee certified where their factories, where the cloth is produced, or if it's recycled, where it's recycled, what's their emissions status, like are they transparent with it, also are they cruel to animals, do they use toxic materials like toxic dyes, and also how well do they pay their supply, pay the people who make the clothes. So, fair trade. And so it's funny, a lot of the sports retailers that we talked about, like Nike didn't rank too bad. They weren't the worst, but Adidas ranked pretty bad. They were like the worst ranking you can get on Good On You is like would not recommend. And I think most of them were in the do better rating, but that's like getting a D instead of an F. But it was funny, Puma actually had a B rating, like an actual really good rating. So their recycling practices and the way that they manufacture is not bad. But of course, I'm always of the stance that the best way to prevent pollution is to not produce it in the first place, much less have the overproduction that we do with clothes. But it got me thinking about that supply chain, and I'm going to post a really great video down below by a wonderful channel called Climate Town. Climate Town had an excellent video that talked about this. What they wanted to do is they wanted to create t-shirts, merchandise for their channel, and it's a great video that talks about how merchandise is trashing the planet, which it totally is. But they at first, and I've seen this on different channels too. There's another really great channel that I watch where what they did is they both Climate Town and Kathleen Illustrated, they chose to buy what we call dead stock materials. It's t-shirts that were either they might have either a defect or they were just never sold, so they're extra unsold stock, and instead of burning it or throwing it away or creating waste from it, you can buy it and use it, repurpose it for something else. And I'm really excited excited. Actually, this week it'll be the subject of the next video in 2 weeks. I'm actually going to be invited to an opening tour of a place called Helpsy, who actually repurposes dead stock materials. So we're going to talk about this more in the next video, and it's going to be a field trip, which is really great. But in the Climate Town video, it was great because at first what they were doing is buying dead stock t-shirts to create their merch, to create their shirts. Kathleen Illustrator does this too. She has a really cute thrift gremlin shirt, and they keep selling out like crazy. I'm tempted to get one, but she uses dead stock t-shirts as the base for the when she creates them. Now, Climate Town started out using dead stock, but then they later found, and this is where it got really exciting about the supply chain, they actually found a retailer in North Carolina called TS Designs. And this retailer works with merchandise, t-shirts and apparel. But just like the rest of the world, 12 years ago, they did it the way that everyone else did it, where they bought fresh t-shirts, fresh blanks from, overseas, from, primarily from China, but from other places too, and would just print on it. And I'm really impressed by this provider because TS Designs was really ahead of the curve, and this kind of innovation, if everyone thought this way, it would make the world such a better place, because with tariffs and everything else, you don't want to wait. I mean, it's all about infrastructure. It's like if we don't try to do it any different way, we're just going to continue to mass produce the way that we always have. And then when a world events like, tariffs or something else comes down the line, then we find ourselves in a real predicament because we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the ability to produce it ourselves. And that's exactly what TS Designs did. They said, okay, instead of buying t-shirts or buying the materials from overseas, is there a way that we can make it here? And what they do is they instead of it being flown all around Europe with being mass produced and then flown around to have the tags sewn in and this and that, TS Design grows grows cotton. I don't know if it's organic cotton. I think it is. They grow their own cotton. Then they have a facility that's like about 100 miles away that it gets shipped to, where the cotton gets processed, it gets woven into material, and then it gets driven to another facility that sews it into shirts, and then it uses a natural ink pigment to dye on it. So Climate Town, actually, it's a great video. I'll put it in the description box if you want to check it out. Talks about that process, and this is a provider in the United States, so they are completely ahead of the game. If you get that kind of infrastructure and set up, and it took them decades to set that up. That did not just happen overnight. In order for you to make a t-shirt within an 800 mile radius, to have all of those pieces all done within North Carolina and South Carolina, I'm not only very proud that that's happening in the United States, but the fact that they could, get all the steps integrated. And it does make the t-shirt more expensive. Like, if you look at it, I think the Climate Town t-shirt is like $58. But when you think about it, organic cotton, completely made, woven, sewn, printed in the USA, that's worth it. It's where we get into, and I've said it till I'm blue, when we start getting into the cheap fashion, that the reason that it's cheap is because someone in the supply chain got cheated. It could have been, like a sweatshop laborer that, and someone not paid a living wage. You could have child labor, or you could have it where I do see a lot of business models where they just try to sell it to you cheaply so you'll buy more. And that's how it kind of gets you hooked on this, and it becomes a very bad cycle. But I was really impressed by that video, and it got me thinking, okay, yes, if everything that we bought, if everything we buy was like that, where all of the materials could be grown here or produced here or mined here, and then if we had that infrastructure, yeah, tariffs would not be a headache. take. But unfortunately, tariffs are because, and again, back to the original question, the book that I'm looking at, is it because it's going to be the costs on each piece? Because when you impose tariffs, what if there's a tariff on the ink that you have to ship from this country, and then or the cotton that you have to provide from this country? You don't know where all the pieces of the product are coming from, and if there's going to be even if it's as small as 10%, that could add up quickly. This also got me thinking, and this is another thing that I noticed, is I had gone into Walmart, and there's actually another great video I'll post below that talked about the history of Walmart, like how it came about. And the owner of the CEO, the founder of Walmart, really revolutionized the supply chain, because what he decided to do is he bought a franchise, which was kind of like a five and dime store, and he managed it. He almost, just like any franchise, he owned the one location, and he was restricted by the franchise to only buy from certain suppliers. And what happened was the founder of Walmart went outside. He kind of bent the rules, and he started speaking directly instead of going through the middleman of the owners of the franchise, saying, and being limited on who you could buy from. He started communicating directly with the suppliers. And when you cut out the middleman, when you don't have all of those steps in between, that's not only saves you a lot of money, but it gives you a little bit of bargaining capability. Plus, he was taking note of what was selling well in his store, and he was buying it in bulk. So it was really brilliant. It's a really great video just for a sense of seeing, and he really revolutionized. I mean, he's the reason why we have the Kmart, Walmart, Target kind of business model that we do. But I did go into Walmart, and I saw this really cute denim dress made by Lee, which is a popular jeans brand, and they didn't have it in my size. So it was interesting. It was on sale for I think less than $30. It was like $33, which was, again, the premise of Walmart. They were able to work directly with the supplier, cut out the middleman, and then give it to you cheaper. But when I went to the Lee website, it was interesting. It was almost twice the price. And it was interesting. It was like $58, and I got it on sale with a coupon, but it was still close to almost double the price. Now, when the dress came in, it was funny. The tag actually had the price cut out of it, and it looked like it was in the same place that a Walmart tag would be. So again, I don't know. That's another place where it got me thinking about supply chain. Was this directly, are they upcharging because I'm buying directly from the merchant, or is this related to tariffs? Are they projecting that this is going to cost more if they sell it, and again, we're in the middle of a 90-day pause. But the only other thing that's kind of dangerous with supply chains and with tariffs is it's kind of like the pandemic effect. During the pandemic, the supply chains were bottlenecked because of the workers not being able to be in the factories to produce. So the prices went up for everything. But then it was funny, even after that was no longer a factor, the prices remained high. And you'll notice that, inconsequentially, the grocery stores had record, revenue increase during that time. So I really am starting to wonder, I had seen a couple videos that actually, like in Europe, if a tariff is applied to something, it will actually show on a receipt, that it costs more, or what part of the cost of it is the tariff. But I don't think that we're going to see that here in the United States. To be honest, you have to, before you can even collect a tariff, you're going to have to train. There's a process to it. You can't just verbally say, hey, I'm slapping a tariff on something and have it be done. You have to train, there's a protocol that has to be put in place. There's paperwork There's reporting that you have to do. You have to train the folks that are at the port accepting these. And the crazy thing is, if you get nuanced with it, like we're trying to do, we're saying, oh, okay, we're not going to tariff, cell phones or laptops or, refrigerators or whatever. The shipments come in gigantic storage containers. You can't see from the outside what it contains. And sometimes that storage container can have a mix of things. You might have blenders on the same storage crate, freight as, the laptops that you're talking about. So it's going to be a very intensive process to only tariff some things and not tariff others. And there's going to have to be training that puts in. So again, we're kind of in this murky area of at what point, because the different parts that go into that dress, just like we see with the making of a t-shirt. And I was, so it just got me thinking about that. And this is where I wanted to give you a little bit of homework, where if you just look at a product that you buy frequently, and I am going to show you this. Yes, am I showing you my recycled toilet paper? Yes, I am. There is a brand called Seventh Generation, and I like it because it comes in paper wrapping, which is completely recycled, and it's 100% recycled toilet paper. And what I was noticing is I was just kind of looking at the back, and if you can kind of see that, it's hard to focus, but it says manufactured for 7th generation Burlington, Vermont, but that the Toronto, Canada. So we talk a lot about like paper products being, the pulp mills might be in Canada. Yes, we can grow trees here, and here this is actually a Whole Foods, it's called Sustainably Soft. It's not the recycled type, but it's normal grown trees, but without any chlorine, bleach, or any contaminants. This also says, made in Austin, Texas, but it doesn't say where the trees are sourced from. And then it just says that it's the box is 100% recycled. So this is kind of an interesting thing to discern. And, just to get an idea to how supply chains work, just pick up any product that you use on the daily and look at the back of it. Look, if it's clothing, look at the tag. I got a sweatshirt recently, and it said, made in the USA, manufactured in China. And it's like, okay, how can it be both? What parts of it was made here? What parts of it was, came from China? So it's going to be interesting. And it's funny, one other thing that happened, and it was a little frustrating for me, but I had been purposely trying to put my buying dollar towards small businesses, and I had purchased 2 separate items, including some soap off eBay, and eBay has very clear, policies. You cannot ship, you cannot fulfill through Amazon if you sell on eBay, and I bought 2 different products. The sellers look like small businesses based here in the United States. And tell me why. I mean, I was so frustrated. I got 2 parcels from Amazon. And I was like, what in the world? I did not order this from Amazon. It had tickets inside. It was Amazon packaging. And what it was is it was drop shipped. The small business that I bought from fulfilled it through Amazon. And I'm not trying to cite the small business. I mean, I've read a few articles that say that sometimes the storage of their surplus is with Amazon, so that's how they can get it out of surplus. But to be honest, I just feel like it's such a monopoly. And again, this is just going to get more convoluted. You're not going to know. And the soap that I bought, I paid more for. So I don't know how much more of that is going to, Jeff Bezos, or if that's going to tariffs, or if it's a myriad of middlemen in the middle just getting their cut. And if we want to make this better, we really do need to look at supply chains. I mean, what's going on politically might be a good opportunity to kind of shine a spotlight on what's going on and how we can make it better. Now, of course, the infrastructure is going to take years. It'll take more than 4 years to create any of this. But, you know, the attention it's bringing to it and the importance of us doing it here is not understated. It would be great if we actually implement all of these changes. The other thing is, it would be great if just like you have a label on your food telling you what's in your food, it would be great to have a label on your clothes saying what's in your clothes. You know, what type of dyes were used, where did it source from, because all of that gets really murky. And it's so funny, you know, you talk about middlemen, and I was watching a documentary, and I know this sounds kind of funny. I was watching a documentary on Hulu that talked about the Mafia, and in particularly Donnie Brasco, who was the undercover FBI agent who actually got kind of indoctrinated and, you know, was brought into the business to see how it worked. And it was just interesting because it kind of talked about supply chain there as well. To be entry level in organized crime, you have to you come in as what they call an associate. It's kind of like, you know, you're kind of applying for the job, you're showing that you can do it. And what they typically do is they bring in money somewhere, and if that's either, you know, not so much threatening people the way that they used to, even though I'm sure that happened a lot, but Donnie Brasco even said that one of his first jobs was he went down to the docks, and they somehow paid somebody, a delivery man who had a truck full of beef, like really like steak level center cut meat, and he was able to bribe the guy to get the meat, so, you know, the guy undercut his employer. And just side note, you know, if you pay someone a living wage where they don't have to, you know, do that kind of stuff and sell your merchandise to, you know, supplement their own income, that goes a long way too. But he was able to buy all this beef, and he gave the proceeds, like when he sold it on, you know, on the side, he got like $7,000, and this was in the 70s, so that was quite a bank, and he gave a good proceeds of it over, and he made himself, quote unquote, an earner. So that's also kind of how you can think of supply chains, not to compare it to, you know, organized crime, but it is kind of like that. If you have middlemen, if you have points in the middle where it's obscured, where you don't know, you know, is this legitimately someone sourcing the materials, or is someone just getting their cut somewhere? And again, that's what we kind of need to regulate if we're going to make any of this bearable. If we don't regulate any of it, how are we going to tariff it, much less try to bring that infrastructure here where we can make what we can make and actually bring that back home, you know, bring that back to our country. So it was just really interesting. I hope this wasn't too boring, but I do hope that you would try this just as an experiment. Pick up something and imagine what steps it would have to go through. Is there anything in the middle that would, you know, break it up? I hope this has kind of piqued your curiosity. If there's anything that you've watched or seen that helps go into this more in depth, please feel free to leave a comment, because I am curious about this. It seems like an area that we don't know a whole lot about, but really needs to have a lot more, you know, regulation. If you like what you see on this channel, I would be very honored if you'd like, comment, and subscribe. And I thank you for joining with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.